We welcome the insiders, Pierre Lebrun and Darren Drager. Gentlemen, now that we are officially into Phase 2, how soon will we know the timeline and the details of Phase 3 and Phase 4 when we're actually seeing real games, Pierre?
Yeah, well, James, I think there's a lot of work ahead here over the next couple of weeks is what I'm told. Listen, they're finally into the real negotiations for Phase 3 and Phase 4. I mean, listen, last week, as we know, they were still finalizing the details on the format. They were still finalizing how Phase 2 would look like, and Phase 2 is finally here. So over the next few weeks, the NHLPA and the NHL will continue to go back and forth on how training camp and the actual 24 tournament are going to work in terms of protocols and details and testing and everything. Now, at the end of all that, the NHLPA, through its executive board, the 31 player reps, will vote on all this. And it won't be a separate vote on training camp and then another vote on the tournament and the protocol. It'll be one big package vote is what I'm told. And that's the moment. That's the moment where we find out if there will in fact be hockey this season, which is what both sides hope there will be.
Well, NHL players, Pierre, are waiting for all of that, eagerly awaiting the specifics, especially Phase 3, and what the hub city environment is going to look like. What are the specific restrictions? Now, there's a belief that maybe things are going to be tighter than expected, and maybe families, which was a big sticking point early in the discussions, aren't going to be allowed to visit until later in the playoffs, perhaps as late as the Stanley Cup final. But the message from the league and from the Players Association is simple. Nothing is going to be perfect. There are going to be sacrifices, but those sacrifices are what is necessary for getting the sport back on its feet.
And in the midst of these negotiations, the CBA negotiations continue. Is there a possibility, Pierre, that we could see some sort of framework of a deal before we actually see games again?
Well, there are those involved who are at least holding out hope that that's a possibility, James. Perhaps a memo of understanding agreed to by both sides in time for camps to start in mid-July. Imagine that. A lot of work to be done before both sides get to that, but that's certainly a possibility, and I think it's important, certainly from a player's perspective, that you know what's on the table as far as your economic reality here over the next couple of years. Why are you coming back to play? What does it mean for escrow? What's the salary cap going to look like? There are a lot of questions, and I think if, at the very least, the NHLPA and the NHL can have some clarity on some major CBA issues, by then it would go a long way in, I think, influencing how some players feel about things moving forward.
Dregs, we're in a position where, best case scenario, we get a 2020-2021 NHL season, but it ends likely very late, which would probably impact the 2021-2022 season. Where does that leave the 2022 Olympics and NHL participation?
It's a key discussion in the negotiation of an extension to the collective bargaining agreement. There's no doubt about that. I mean, maybe the media has lost sight or the international calendar is somewhat off of our radar, but that's not the case with the NHL Players Association. They believe that the international calendar is key to, again, further developing the revenue and the marketing aspect of the National Hockey League, the growth of the sport in general. So it will be a key topic, and returning to the Olympics as early as 2022 most definitely will be on the table. You could see that memorandum of understanding subject to an agreement with the IOC and the IIHF. That's a big deal to the players involved in these talks.
Yeah, it's a big deal to players and fans, but perhaps a little bit further down the priority list with what has happened over the last few months. Insider trading.